Hello and welcome to this little mini training about the mayhem that may still exist after you've experienced being disempowered or bullied and how it filters into your life without you really being fully aware that it plays a big part. So there is a deeper issue that we're going to address on this call and the reasons why you may still have that mayhem filtering into your life that affects what you do or don't do and how you go about protecting yourself subconsciously. So you might like to grab a piece of paper and a pen because you might like to jot down some things that I'm going to share with you along the way. So let's get started. There is or was a point in your life where things went wrong. There is something very wrong with being at the receiving end of being downtrodden. And there is something very wrong with being on the receiving end of being bullied. The emotions that you experience, the coping mechanisms that you put in place, the isolation that you experience, and even feeling abandoned maybe, is very real. So from any experience, you have a takeaway that you could potentially share with someone. So when I went whitewater rafting, the takeaway that I shared was that it was an awesome experience. So I wonder what your experience was from what you experienced. My takeaway from both of the experiences that I went through in a relationship where I was downtrodden and bullied was that I just need to say nothing because anything that I said didn't matter and anything I did say was taken out of context and I received more verbal attacks to put me in my place. So that was my takeaway. I used to wake up repeatedly in the middle of the night wondering what I had done that was so wrong. Being exposed to put downs or meetings to destroy my soul left me feeling like I must be doing something wrong with the way that I was behaving or the way I say things or how I am when I'm around others. Otherwise, I wouldn't keep hearing those words of put downs or undermining me as a person. Surely. It was as if I wasn't supposed to be me. I ended up coming up with a belief that occurred without me trying to find a belief. It just seemed to occur. It became entrenched within my mindset that I wasn't good enough. So with my fixed mindset on that belief, I actually went about my daily business and life acting that belief out, that I wasn't good enough, and it showed up in many ways. I hated conflict, and I seemed to be swimming upstream with finding ways that stopped me from feeling worn out by the end of the day. At the end of the day was the time that I could be me, because the daily grind had me believing that I wasn't good enough, and I tended to act that out as if I wasn't good enough. And potentially you might do activities that are probably not as healthy as they could be. Maybe overindulging in drinking, or overindulging in eating, or overindulging in exercising, and even overindulging in thought processes. Every one of those is to help you feel like you are getting some relief or some type of comfort. And hey, if you're going through a hard time, of course you want comfort. So when you form a belief, and for me it was that I wasn't good enough, I felt like I was being judged a lot of the time. I was reading into people's minds without even asking them the question. And maybe some of you do that as well. So I learned not to have a voice and I learned to please people as a coping strategy because I was fast becoming a candidate for low self-esteem, where once upon a time I had a healthy self-esteem. So when you perform in particular ways, as you go about your daily business in your life, you put out an energy that people pick up on. And I call that your vibe or an energy vibration. You know those times when somebody walks into a room and you can pick up on their vibe as, wow, they're very confident, or you can pick up on somebody that walks into a room and go, oh my golly gosh, they don't look or act as if they're very relaxed. They seem to be on high alert. I was one of those people until I learnt a few things about myself. You know, a victim will always find a bully, and a bully will always find a victim. A victim is normally a people pleaser, caring how others are feeling, and they don't like rocking the boat. So I was helping them to shine rather than myself having that potential to shine outwardly because I was so busy suffering on the inside. So here's where you might like to start taking some notes. We're driven by our emotional status, our beliefs, and how confidently we feel about ourselves. So we live in a world of duality. That means we have the positives and the negatives. And when you're being bullied in a workplace situation or being bullied anywhere for that matter, you do learn to fear what doesn't feel very pleasant. What that conflict for you listening to this recording. So when you experience conflict, you may get the tightness in your chest or in your stomach, the shaky hands or the shallow breathing. And you can't seem to use your voice very effectively. I used to get like a frog in my throat. And your lack of confidence holds that in place. I doubted my abilities within those conflict situations. So if I was in meetings, I wasn't coping very well. Or in my relationship, when I was being verbally put down, I wasn't coping very well at all. And I turned inwardly on myself. And that was a spiral of absolute destruction to my emotional well-being and my self-esteem. So this is what I learned about those situations. I was living in what is referred to as the fight, flight or freeze response. And for anyone who's listening, the fight, flight or freeze is your limbic brain. And within that limbic brain system, you have an amygdala. And your amygdala remembers all of those events and experiences in your life to decide whether each event is one to be enjoyed again or one to be in fear of again. It remembers them because it guides you to recognize a potential threat to you and to make a decision about that. And so living with being bullied or living in a relationship where you've been downtrodden, you're living on alert all the time. And this is subconsciously. So you're in automatic pilot, you're aware, you're more alert. Or whether that conflict might come up again is something that you just have in the back of your mind. And when somebody starts talking to you in a particular way, your amygdala remembers and puts you into that alert. And with any one of the events, to some degree then, you will experience the fight, flight or freeze to help you survive that conflict. One of your ways to survive, as it was for me, is to put things in place for yourself. You know, tossing and turning at night and having those conversations with yourself, avoiding situations that you perceive there might be a cause for you to feel threatened and generally feeling fatigued at the end of the day. That was me in a nutshell. So I'd like to share with you the things that I did to turn around the mayhem that was turning up in my world and needing to be stepping on eggshells, feeling worthless in my workplace and my relationship. So what I am about to share with you were the things that I did which became my way of letting go of the mayhem and finding that me having some control in what was going on in my world instead of reaching to a point of feeling helpless. And you have everything here on earth to support you. We live in a world of duality, and therefore support is on the flip side. So when you experience one thing, that you can also experience another thing. So words that hurt have words that can heal. You have so many different resources here on earth that you may not be aware of. So I'm going to share with you 3 of the things that I did. I also created an entire course that goes to a deeper level. So one thing that really helped me was to talk with people that I knew were on my side and supported me, where I could verbalize what was happening and acknowledging that without thinking I was going to be judged. They were on my side. And that strategy is a great one to use with someone that you totally trust, because you are more likely to share more. Knowing that they have your back and are there for you will allow you to open up more freely. I also did some journal writing and poured all of my emotions out in that writing with how unfair everything was and what I felt about that unfairness. I spoke about the things that I had missed out on doing because of my fear of conflict and not having a voice at my side to support me and feeling like I had been abandoned as a person. So when you start your journal, you start with acknowledging where you are at first, because you can't move forward unless you start with where you are at. Your subconscious mind will be listening to you because it's part of you and looking for answers within you to support you, to allow you to move forward. So when you acknowledge that journal entry and pour everything onto that piece of paper or to that trusted friend, then you are able to let things go a lot easier. And at the end of the journal writing or sharing with a friend, you put your hand on your gut or on your heart and say, "No wonder I was feeling that way. There was a lot of things to deal with and try and cope with. And I am an intelligent person that deserves to believe in me because I actually matter." You do matter. Another thing that I did was to go through the thesaurus, which is on the Google search as synonyms and antonyms. So the antonyms are the words of opposite. And we are looking for the duality in this concept that I'm sharing. So any emotions that you were experiencing or experience in the present, you can go to the antonyms and type that word, and it will come up with words that you can then turn into goal setting exercise to get yourself to that word of the opposite. So as an example, the opposite of fear is assurance, calmness, cheer, confidence, contentment, ease, encouragement, faith, happiness, or joy. So for you, it could be one of those words that you're happy to work with. So it might be that you want to have a goal on finding ways to have that calmness within you at particular times of the day or when you are around other people. And any one of those words can be a goal setting exercise for you. So if you need support with goal setting, you can always book a call and set up a time with me, and I can step you through those changes for you to start working on those. Another is affirmations. For some people, it's very hard to believe that's true when reading an affirmation. And that's because your ego comes into play sometimes in that scenario, because your ego is a decision maker. So if you go into the affirmations during the day and you get that feedback of, oh, well, that's not actually really true, then it's best done first thing in the morning when awakening, before your ego has had time to come in and say otherwise. If you focus on doing the affirmations in the morning and continue to do them, your mind will start searching for where that was once true for you before the mayhem filtered into your daily life. I have a sequence of affirmations as a download that I have aligned up to the chakra energy points, or otherwise you can search on Google for affirmations. They're on my website, they cost $10, and it's all there for you, just ready to go. So the last concept to share with you is one that comes from an NLP training that I did. And it's a great technique, and it's called the Be, Do, Have. So you can't be sad when you're standing up tall with your shoulders back and your head held high. It's the best example that I can think of to share how it works as, like a win-win situation. I used to share that with children in the classroom. If they were really crying, their heads down, their body posture is down, ask them to put their head up, put their eyes up, and that was a real calming technique for them. And they believed it, and it worked. So for me, my outcome was to have the confidence and feel like I was worthy and be able to use my voice without thinking that it was absolutely useless. So I had to be the strong person, and I call that my warrior strength, and trust that it was going to work with the way I stood and my body posture and the things that I shared with others. I never shared the negative because that doesn't come with being a strong person. Then I needed to do what was required, and that involved turning up as that strong person or the warrior. I was seeking feedback using this strategy, and it worked for me. I was giving out a different sort of vibration, or my vibe, that others were picking up on, and it was a win-win situation. It really was. The have side of that strategy was that I was able to start turning things around for myself and use my newfound confidence to search other directions instead of feeling that helplessness. Each step you take makes a big difference. I also offer a free 30-minute connection with you that you can access through my booking system to ask questions and find out what else I offer so that you become the person that matters most.